Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Sincerely Agile with Mary. Now, it is Mother's Day here in the United Kingdom. So, to all the amazing mothers out there watching, happy Mother's Day and thank you for all the hard work you do on the family front. Now, today we're looking at adapting to a VUCA world. Now, if you don't know what this acronym stands for, it is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And I have Derek DeGans, Ph.D., Digital Transformation Executive, joining me on this all important conversation. Hello, Derek.
Hello, Mary. Good to
How
see
are
you.
you?
I'm doing very well. Hope everything is well with you. Happy Mother's Day as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's so good to have you on the show.
My
I know
pleasure.
we had to change the dates, at some point, but it's good to finally have you here. And what an
Pleasure.
interesting topic to cover today. What an interesting topic to cover.
Yeah,
Adapting
yeah.
to a VUCA world. And indeed, things are so, in fact, they are up in the air. Everything is up in the air.
Indeed, indeed.
We're not sure about jobs anymore. We're not sure about interest rates anymore. We're not sure, what our bills are supposed to be. I mean, I was telling my daughter the other day, my utility bill went up by about £70. That's a lot. That is a lot.
It's
So there's
crazy.
a whole lot
Crazy.
that we are not sure about. So, and that is why we're talking about adapting to a VUCA world. Although we're talking about this mostly from the perspective of an organization. And of course, Derek, we stream on LinkedIn, we stream on Facebook and YouTube, and we have a live audience and we have some
Nice.
people joining us already.
Oh, that's good.
So
Good to
how
have
have
you.
you been? How has your weekend been?
My weekend has been pretty good. I usually have uh, intensive-ish weeks, so I try to have my weekends just to disconnect, relax, family kind of thing.
Hmm.
So far so good. It's warming up now here in Canada, so the snow is melting, so that's a good thing.
That is good. What's the temperature today in Canada? What's that like?
The temperature is -2 Celsius, minus
Wow,
two.
that's a lot. That's still very cold for me. I mean, I'm shivering
I,
just hearing it's minus
I
two.
know the UK is not too bad with temperature, but compared to -40, which it can be here in certain parts of Canada at times, that is cool. So -2 is barbecue weather for us.
Wow, wow. I mean, here in the United Kingdom, we only need to have a few inches of snow, and it's mayhem everywhere.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh,
So let me read out your bio so that we have our guests know more about you, and I'm just
okay.
going to bring it up, and so they know more about you. Right. Derek Degan's PhD has been in the information technology field for almost 35 years, has earned several degrees and certifications in tech, change
Hmm.
management, and the agile space. He is currently a program management technology advisor and leads a team of skilled project managers and information technology experts in several enterprise wide technology initiatives. Derek, as he likes to be called, is an adjunct professor at an online university in the Caribbean, where he lectures in aligning IT to business strategy, business studies, project management, and database management to graduate students. He also runs certificate programs in project management and organizational change management for the public sector and private enterprises. Derek is a certified ProSci change agent, a certified Scrum Master, and is also certified in several other areas such as COVID 5, ITIL version 3, and Agile Coach. Derek has been married for over 34 years to the love of his life, and they have five beautiful children together.
Fine,
Derek,
indeed.
you're welcome to Sincerely Agile with Mary. Thank you for making time to join me here today.
It's wonderful for having me here, Mary. Really, thanks so much.
Thank you so much. So now, Derek, today we're looking at adapting to a VUCA world. Let's start with leadership. Let's
Hmm.
start with leadership. Leadership approach to what it means to be a leader or to even run an organization today, given
Yes.
that it is a VUCA environment. And I think this is a good place to start because obviously we need leadership to make change happen. Leadership go first, like we say, leadership when it comes to culture, I mean, I can almost say that I don't envy leaders today because it is a difficult time to be a
Yes,
leader. So,
yes.
what do you say to that leadership space in a VUCA world?
Well, make sure you have. There's a term in the Caribbean that we call thick-skinned or thin-skinned. I know some people may or may not be aware of that, but if you're thin-skinned, you're easily offended. Your morale is low, little motivation. Thick-skinned is the total opposite for that. And this COVID last 2 3 years, I think has turned organizations upside down, and it's really, I would say, it brought to the forefront true leaders, and it also spotlighted weak leaders as well, right? How can you adapt to this? Today we're working normal, tomorrow COVID, countries locked down, people are told to stay home. What do you do? So you really, really have to throw out your old way of thinking to what leadership is, and you have to be able to think on your feet. You need to be adaptable. You need to be a good listener to your employees as well. And again, I refer to the COVID and coming through it and out of it. So those are the few things that really came to the forefront there, especially being a good listener and being a very adaptable. um, you know, the typical way of leadership like, let's say if you do a bachelor's program in leadership and management, and some of those things could be relevant, but some things it's gone. It's total transformation, right? And that's why that buzzword transformation and digital transformation is now strong, because you need to transform, you need to be adaptable, right? So there you go.
We really do need to be adaptable. And I like what you said that during the COVID period, it actually amplified different types of leadership, right? It really did
Correct.
amplify that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
also, leaders had to move really fast because things had to
Oh
change
yeah.
really, really fast. And I think
Oh yeah.
another thing that happened during that COVID period was the fact that it also highlighted the fact that some were already on the agile transformation. And for those organizations, I think business continuity was, I wouldn't say maybe a walk in the park, but it meant business continuity happened much better and faster for them as opposed to the ones that hadn't.
That's
And
true.
again, it is
That's
about
true.
transformation. And
Absolutely.
when
Absolutely.
we talk about transformation, it means we are changing, right? It means we are changing, just like you have a butterfly goes to different stages, right?
Mm-hmm.
Metamorphosis and all of
Mm-hmm.
that. We
Mm-hmm.
are
Mm-hmm.
changing from what used to be to something new. But how easy is it for us to move away from how things used to be? The way we do things around here, the culture that
Yeah.
we're so
That's
used to.
right.
How
Yeah.
easy is it to establish a new culture?
That's a $1 million question.
Question. Yeah, I
Really.
know.
Absolutely. It's culture. I mean, that's a whole topic there. But language, body language,
Hmm.
food, how you communicate. And linked to what I said previously. How organizations did things yesterday, a lot of it is not relevant today, right? Right. That culture being, I mean, from working 100% at home for several months to now trying to find a hybrid. Some organizations demanding their their employees come back to the office. Now I could see a lot of hardships for organizations with that, because here it is, daycare. I don't know about the cost of daycare in the UK. Daycare in Canada has skyrocketed, and it continues to skyrocket. Families that barely making ends meet were able to save. To me, they're true leaders. They had to adapt. Oh my gosh, my child would have gone to school today. Now I have to have them home. What am I going to do? Leadership, the leaders needed to be, and I may have mentioned this before, to be good listeners to uh, their staff.
Employees.
I need to listen to, okay, I'm hearing you. What can the organization do to help everyone transition and continue to transform through this? And it's a whole mindset thing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
again, if leaders in the past want to hold on to, we need to be back in the office, or you need to be at the desk by 8 o'clock, and you need to really adapt. And some cultures, and they have religious beliefs in there as well. Muslims have their daily set time for doing their prayers, and on Fridays and all of that. Organizations factor that into their work environment. So it's a, I mean, oh my goodness, there's not enough time to go deep about a number of these things, right? But it's
Mm-hmm.
certainly, you have to, again, you have to be able to think on your feet. You have to be able to listen. I think being a good listener there
And
is
lead by
important
example, like you said
for
earlier on, because
sure.
a whole lot needs to change. When I read out your bio, one of the things that I saw in your bio that really got me excited was the fact that one of the things you do as a professional is help organizations align IT and business. Again, that is a cultural change in and of itself. That is also a
Very,
culture change because
very true. Yeah.
traditionally, like we were saying before we came online, technology is no longer a support function.
No,
So,
no.
in terms of your alignment with business strategy, talk to us a little bit more about that change in culture because there's a whole lot we can talk about off of that. Because, like I said, technology is no longer a support function. Technology is now the business. Tell us a little bit more about that
No.
change in culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would have mentioned to you before we came in, organizations now are beginning to look at IT as a business center. Right? They must continue to show and add value to the organization. CIOs, chief information officers, or vice presidents, however you want to call them, and they need their department goals and strategies has to align to the corporate goals and strategies, and they must be able to begin transforming the way they work, the type of technology that they're injecting within the organization to help that organization, and we talk about digital transformation, to link and able to help organizations digitize and take them into the digital world, if you will. That's a big change right there. I mean, a lot of CIOs I know personally, and I'm in a number of groups and so on. They have a challenge to understanding what that transformation would look like. People think digitization is just converting paper into documents. It's a whole lot more than that. The right technology, not every technology it works well for every organization. It's not a cookie cutter. So again, you have to understand the corporate goals of the organization. You understand the people that you have in the organization because you have varying ages of people within the organization. You have to be able to work and adapt to them and to their type of work style and help them transfer long term to where you want to be. Save money for the organization, do things faster, better, user friendliness. All of those things come
Mhm.
with how you transform an organization to how they work. And again, linking to COVID, unfortunately, we can't forget the effects of COVID and what it has made organizations to today. So all of that you have to encapsulate in the organization to help have that cultural transformation, and that has to be a link to that digital transformation. It's a cultural transformation as well.
Mm. I mean, as you were talking there, I mean, we use one of the first few organizations that were the casualties of innovation, if you like, organizations like Kodak, Blockbuster, and Nokia. I mean, Nokia in particular, and this is why I'm really, highlighting this. Nokia in particular, they had started their agile transformation, but they went practically bust anyway. I mean, this was
Wow.
not because they were not agile. They had started their agile transformation, but they still couldn't quite cut it. And I think that is coming back to how this conversation started, which is the culture. They were not changing fast enough.
Yeah, yeah,
In as much as they were doing agile because they were doing agile, but they were not being agile. The culture wasn't changing, but they were ticking the boxes. They were, capturing all the agile metrics, and it looked like they were doing good, and which we call the watermelon effect, essentially, where
Right, right.
the outside looks green, but the inside is red, and last minute you realize that your project or your transformation is in trouble. Now, an organization like Nokia, huge organization, front runner in terms of mobile technology and platforms
Mm-hmm,
and all of that,
mm-hmm,
but still failed.
mm-hmm.
So, what should organization today really be doing in terms of aligning IT with their business? Are they doing enough? Can they really? Because you talk about aligning IT with business as part of what you do, and I'm thinking about, how does business see what is happening in IT?
Yeah,
Okay, because we
yeah,
talk about value stream management, we're talking about the flow of value. How can we really make sure today, given the speed at which things are changing, that the business can very quickly pivot based on
yeah,
the feedback loop? So, how does
yeah,
that happen? Or how can we talk to this for people to learn from?
yeah. Yeah, organizations have to open up themselves to trends, market trends. Like I'm in Canada. BlackBerry is a Canadian company. They have diversified away from the smartphone technology. I was in mourning for weeks because I've been a BlackBerry evangelist for so long, and my last BlackBerry, I mean, I use it until it couldn't be used again.
Oh,
You know, a typical example, you're staying in your bubble. You're not worrying about what's happening outside there. You're not seeing the user trends, the market, or whatever. And then they didn't evolve.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden, the the smartphone world got killed. I mean, they're still a viable company in terms of the security for governments and all of that. But that's a very classical example of not having your eyes open to what's happening outside and to your user experience, your user needs, and you stick it to that same thing. What worked yesterday can work today, and you just didn't evolve, and it collapsed. Another Canadian company, Nortel, uh, classical example, same thing as well. You worked well, great organization, but it caved in because they didn't adapt. And that adaptation is so important for aligning your business to your IT goals and your strategies and all of that. So that Michael Porter had a thing called the five forces, where you have to look at your business strategy, but you have to look at the corporate trends, the market trends, and everything else. And you have to be keeping on top of that. And if you don't keep up, you're going to be left behind. And like what happened to BlackBerry and Nokia and all of that, they just caved in, you know. And that goes back to
absolutely.
leadership there again.
It comes back to leadership. Absolutely. There was a word you used there just now. You said bubble. They can't afford to be in that bubble. And sometimes they are in a bubble of what they know how to do. For
Exactly.
example, Kodak was great at making films and they were the best at it, so
They
more
were.
or less. And they
They
felt,
were.
you know what, because we are so great at this is what people will continue to want. It's not about what
Yeah.
we're great at as a company, it's about
That's
what
true.
the paying
That's true.
customers are willing to
That's
pay
true.
for. Like you said, we need to
Yep.
be on top of the trend. What is happening out there in terms of market research, in terms of user
Absolutely.
research? So organizations like Nokia, they were great with their hardware, but they were weak in terms of the platforms, which was going out of style, if you like, in terms of touch, is it touch screen you call it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, talking about being able to see what is happening at the IT level. Another thing Nokia suffered from was the fact that they had, you know, technical debt mounting. They
Mm-hmm.
had technical debt mounting until it got out of hand. And this, for me, I think it's important from an agile point of view, from a scrum master, agile coach point of view, anyone working with leadership. How can we make sure that the metrics, if you like, within the value stream or within the delivery level can be made available speedily to leadership, because again, leaders have to make these decisions, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
they need data, they need information to make an informed decision. And Nokia didn't have that. They didn't have all the, real time metrics, or,
yeah, yeah,
figures, if you like, in order
yeah.
to know that they needed to shift in terms of their strategy. So, how can we do more of that?
Hmm. I would say two things. You have your organizations like the Gartners and so on. Gartner is a good research organization that tends
Mm,
to keep on top of a lot of areas I mean, more than IT, but IT specifically as well, right? I think certain organizations, they have certain, what's the word, um, research and reports available to them according to the type of organization that you are, to help them start having that discussion.
mhm.
Because, as the world evolves, the knowledge that you have today will be out of date tomorrow. You will not have time to go into a classroom and do this certificate course and try to keep up because the graph technology going keeping on going like this, your organization doing like this, you'll all be left behind.
Yeah.
So you need to get outside of at times to help you close that gap quickly, and find the best economical way to do that. On top of that, an organization needs to accept themselves that, hey, I'm not doing well at keeping up. I need help. Who can help me? And do some internal reviews, see the type of system that you have. Is your data easily accessible to do that sort of analysis on to what you just said, Mary, to identify where the areas are, right? So there's a couple things that you can do in parallel, but if you're doing one of the other is not enough. You need to have a combined multi-pronged approach, and really take the right expert that you have, analysis of the technology system that you have as well, and bring forward and determine the best approach moving forward from a IT business strategy perspective. Right?
I hear you talk about assessment. So leaders need to, take a pause and do some kind of assessment of their IT, their business, their ways of working, to perhaps benchmark themselves against perhaps the other organizations within the industry, to see how well they're doing, and but more importantly, to identify the gaps. And that is really, really important. And this is where I'm thinking value stream, because
Yeah.
in the agile space, I'm beginning to hear that a lot. Value
That's
stream
true.
mapping, value stream mapping.
Yeah.
I'm hearing flow framework. I'm hearing
Yeah.
flow metrics, because in any organization, as long as you have a product and you deliver a service, then value flows through your organization.
Absolutely.
So, in terms of
Absolutely.
agile transformation, it looks like we need to do more with regards to moving away from project and moving more towards the product approach and the value approach,
Value.
and be able to identify how value moves through our organization and align those value metrics to our business outcomes. But it seems not a lot of organizations are doing that properly yet. That's what I think is happening right now. Not a lot are
Yeah.
doing that yet.
Yeah. And it's that what one what is this, effect of that is some organizations sometimes they don't realize what's happening to them. Things are changing so fast that by the time they see an issue,
Mm-hmm.
it's late. I
Yeah.
mean, I've worked with so many organizations. For example, I mean, this may or may not be a good example. They purchased an ERP system for $10 million 10 years ago, and they expect that to last the organization forever. But the organization changes, the user needs changes, the employee needs change, and here you go. Here you have it now.
Mm.
10 years on, the ERP system is no value to your organization anymore. So now they have to go through an entire process of doing RFP and gather requirements, the whole shebang, and another 20 million. If they had kept up, because corporate goals do change,
Yeah.
link it back to leadership. My goals for the next 3 years, when 3 years come, you're going to have new goals. And if those new goals are not filtered down to your other leadership team, and they will have to now review their own goals that's in alignment with that. So there you see that it starts to break down. So that whole value connection there gets broken after a time. And right, so it's I mean, there's so much value to for agile and for really having that value flow within system. I mean, now you have Safe 6.0. I mean, it's evolving
It
so much,
is.
right? And it's how can one keep up? So it's a lot of work now. And to your earlier point, Mary, I do not envy leaders myself. That's why I'm consulting. I go behind these scenes
You go behind the scenes.
and I support them, but I do not want to be in their shoes now. It's crazy. It's
It is
crazy.
difficult.
Right?
And I mean, we are in a situation now where your innovation 3 months ago gets obsolete today. And talking about
Absolutely.
innovation, and I think that links quite easily to the whole idea of value stream, moving from project to product, and having that entrepreneurship kind of mindset. And
Yes.
I think
Yes.
coming back to leadership, this is where leadership really needs to then leverage the capabilities that they have at their disposal.
Yes.
Because sometimes you find that leadership is under a lot of pressure, but are they perhaps under a lot of pressure because they are still trying to manage, or should I say, lead their organizations with management paradigms of the past? Because you find
Absolutely.
that some organizations have they have the capacity and they have the capability. So could it possibly be that what's in the way of innovation, what's in the way of adapting, is the fact that leadership is still using old leadership and management paradigms to try and lead in a VUCA world?
Absolutely. Again, um, we spoke about this a bit before, but what works today wouldn't work tomorrow,
Yeah.
right? Management has every senior management person within the organization has to keep up to date within their vertical,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's finance, whether it's overall management, whether it's IT, HR. Every leadership person there has to keep up with current trends, what future stuff that's coming, and that has to be part of the discussion around the executive table, right? And the head leader, the head honcho, if you will, has to. I mentioned it before, but being a good listener.
Mm-hmm.
If his or her executive leaders are picking up on certain things that are happening now, he or she, that the overall leader, has to make note of that, take note of that, and ensure that his organization continues to adapt, continues to be innovative to stay ahead of the curve. Otherwise, the BlackBerry effect is what I call it. Will happen.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
It will happen, right? So it's again, I don't envy the leaders of
I
today,
don't. I don't.
right? You have
Yeah.
a lot of you know sexual harassments of that's coming, and the whole gender change and all of that. So how do you keep ahead of that
Of
to
that.
be relevant?
I mean, you said something earlier. They need to seek help, obviously, and that is why people like you and I exist: agile coaches, scrum master, transformation coaches,
Yes,
digital, digital, digital transformation, because we need a different set of, way of being, and this is
correct.
where we often talk about not just doing agile, but being agile, because
Yes,
we
yes,
can't lead the same way we've always done it. We need to be able to say, you know what? This is not down to me alone. Gone are the days when it was down to me and I had to be the hero, if you like. There is
correct.
no
Yep,
space for
yep.
heroism anymore because
Uh,
there's just no way one person can deal with all of that. And that is why we need a leadership that can be vulnerable. Okay?
yes,
A
yes.
leadership that can be vulnerable, that can reach out, that can ask for help, that can say, I can't do this on my own. So, in terms of vulnerability, how well are we doing in this space?
I think the jury's still out on that. Right now, I'm working with an not for profit organization
Hmm.
that the the current executive director is exhibiting qualities of just that. I can do things on my own. I don't listen to my staff, and he's the bottleneck for everything. And and things are beginning to crumble. And we're like, are you not seeing what's happening around you, man? He's afraid to say, I really don't know how to do this. Can someone help me? That's all that's required. Empathy, being vulnerable, being open to saying, hey, I may be an executive director, but I don't know everything. I'm a consultant. I don't know everything either. That's why we have on project, we have subject matter experts
Yeah,
because they're an expert in this here, and this for that, and everything together has a nice holistic view or approach or team or whatever, right? And so if you're not being open to being vulnerable, I mean, my personality that comes natural with me. Fortunately, others are not. Ego plays has a big part in them, and they're so egotistic that the team gets broken, the system gets broken, and it just falls behind. So the empathy and that word vulnerable is so very important for leaders now. Again, tying it back to COVID, coming out of COVID, there has to be a lot of that being experienced and being displayed and all of that. That if I am a CEO and I show my vulnerability, I am guaranteed my team will say, hey, director admits he's human, he can make mistakes, let's work together. And they will come together, right? They'll come together.
absolutely. Like we said before, it's about leading by example. So,
You
as a
might,
leader, when you display vulnerability, you're giving them permission to do the same. You're actually setting a trend in terms of the culture
yep,
for your
that's right.
organization. And that is so important because at the end of the day, it's about collective knowledge, collective wisdom, collective intelligence. No one person has all the answers. And it's
That's right.
interesting that sometimes that leadership is the impediment and they don't even know it. Okay. And they think everybody else needs to change, but they don't realize that they are the impediment by trying to do it all,
Yep,
by not having the courage to be vulnerable and say, you know what, I need help. And it shouldn't even be something that we need courage to do today, if you ask
yeah,
me, because
yeah,
at the
yeah,
end of it shouldn't even be something we need courage to do because it is a knowledge economy, right? It is a knowledge economy and no one person has the answers and people have been recruited to play a role. So create the container for them to play that role, leverage all the
absolutely,
expertise that is
absolutely,
available
absolutely,
to you as a leader. So
absolutely.
that
Because
that is important.
the,
Mhm.
the success of an organization depends on the team.
Yeah,
What's the definition of team? Everybody knows, right? Together, everyone achieves more. So,
absolutely.
and
And when you think about organizations like Bosch, BMW, Bosch, for example, I think they're saying they're going to employ 20,000 software engineers in the next few years. If you look at a typical BMW vehicle, it's like a software on wheels. And BMW is saying the same thing. In the next few years, more than half of their staff will be in the software department. So for me, we really need to leverage that knowledge economy and know that, look, no one person has all these answers.
yeah,
Go out there, put the issue on the table, and let's apply collective knowledge to it. So it shouldn't be an area of a difficult area. That's the way I see it anyway. But I guess
but it
everybody's
is
different.
unfortunate. Yes,
But
but it is
unfortunately,
unfortunately. Yep, yep.
yeah, yeah.
A, a,
Thank
a
you.
company, a company comes to mind. An electronics company called PEAVEY.
Right.
They would produce speakers and amplifiers and all of that.
Hmm.
Fantastic brand, but they worked in that bubble, didn't seek advice, they didn't listen to the employees, and they eventually folded. And yet another great brand that just went down, but for the same thing.
Absolutely. And that you've said it, listening. So within the organization, going back to culture, organizations today need to create a culture where people can very quickly surface their concerns, push forward their ideas because it is a VUCA world. I mean, we all hold a piece of the truth, like we say. You could be seeing things from this perspective. I'm seeing it from a totally different perspective. Unless I feel safe to utter what I feel, feelings, even if what I'm thinking, I'm not quite sure if it's the right thing, but you know what,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it might be the right thing.
yeah,
If the
yeah.
environment isn't safe, I'm not going to share my ideas, however rudimentary it might be. We must create that space for people to share their ideas. So that is so important. So, and that is where we need to make sure that we have that quick, that fast feedback loop. So if things are
Yep,
changing on the shop floor, how quickly can we get that upwards to the
indeed,
decision makers? And
indeed.
a LinkedIn user here said, leaders trying to do it all is an impediment. Absolutely, it is an impediment, and it is important that they leverage. I can't see the LinkedIn user, but someone on LinkedIn is making a comment here. Absolutely, thank you for making that
Very good,
comment.
very good.
Now, talking about employee experience, um, employee NPS is a big thing today, right? Net promoter score. It is a big thing today. And we also know that we hear from a lot of write up from major consulting firms and other, like the Gartner Group, for example. They
Yeah,
talk a lot about how there's a huge shortage in IT talent, huge shortage, and that there are even more jobs coming up in IT that we don't even know about yet. Because after all, when we start talking about machine learning and artificial intelligence, these are
right.
all fairly new. These only came up in the last what couple of years or thereabout.
Couple of years, yep.
Not exactly
R,
something
R,
like that. Yes,
RPA, robotic process automation. That's also fairly new as well.
that is all fairly new. So there's a shortage in that space in terms of talent. And if we're talking about a VUCA world, then it means as an organization, I should hold dear to my talent.
Hmm.
So, what should, again, organizations be doing to keep their talent? Otherwise, they're going to lose them.
Yeah, no, it's and that's a nice segue, and it keeps that connection throughout the whole topics that we're discussing there, right? Because
Yeah.
it goes back to leaders in the organization keeping ahead of the trends and what's happening, what's required, and all of that. You know, doing your analysis of the your resources that you have in house today, and seeing what's required next week. How can you promote within, train who you have, and build them up so that they will say, hey, this organization is keeping an interest in me. They're spending a little bit of money on me because they want me to do X, Y, Z, and that whole well, sorry to repeat, but employee experience.
Yeah.
We mentioned before about wanting to air the willingness to air our concern so that the organization can hear, with the hope that there'll be no repercussions on us
That's it.
by saying those things. I mean, I live in Canada, and a lot of organizations within Canada, the culture is don't speak until you're spoken to, right? Because so I'm not allowed to air with my views to help what I think I'm helping without giving that repercussion effect. So the employee experience could be on the negative. Whereas I know some organizations that reverse, they encourage that, and that quickness in resolution, an agile type framework there, if you will, about employee contribution, feedback, execution, and implementation of the ideas. You know, that's a form of agile right there, right? They
Yeah.
don't have to wait until every 6 months to have this sort of meeting. So all of that ties into the employee experience.
Mm,
My view is important. I am allowed to contribute, and I even see some of my ideas coming to life because they'll have be a good listener to what you're saying there as well. You know,
And talking about ideas coming to life, I was just thinking about, some of the agile values and principles. A motivated team, right? A motivated team, they want autonomy, they want
autonomy.
purposeful engagement, and
Yep,
they want mastery. So,
yep,
autonomy,
yep, yep.
mastery, and purpose. So, those three things are very, very important in order for us to keep our employee and in order for them to have that employee experience. Because I can imagine that if I don't feel I'm using my skills, my expertise in a particular role, I'm going to feel bored and I'm going to be looking for where I'm valued.
Yep,
Because when
yep.
it comes to knowledge work, people are not motivated by money. People are
Nope.
motivated by purpose, they are motivated by having the opportunity to add value. And if they are not getting those three things, autonomy, purpose, and mastery, they're going to walk. So
I have some
organizations
notes
need
here
to
about
know.
engagement and involvement.
Yeah, yeah,
If they don't, if you don't engage them, and if you don't involve them, if they don't feel a part of,
yeah.
then that employee experience will be non-existent.
It will be non-existent. And this is where leadership really need to rethink the
Oh yeah,
way they lead.
yeah,
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. How do we value the expertise of our people? Have we created a space in which they can thrive? And talking about creating a space in which they can thrive, when we talk about employee experience, and this has become a real measure for organizations doing their net promoter score and all of that. So you find that even at the strategic level, when it comes to some of the things they want to achieve for the year, employee net promoter score is now a strategic concern in terms of a conversation, because they will
yeah,
lose their staff if they don't do that.
yeah. That's
And
right.
we can also extend that to the I mean, when we talk about external customers and internal customers, there's something I'm seeing out there also. It's called developer experience. Okay. It is called, I mean, I've been reading a lot of stuff about flow framework, about DevOps, and I'm seeing this come up a lot,
Right.
developer experience. Because within the organization, we are now having different types of topologies in terms of team topology, right?
Yes.
So you can have value stream aligned teams, platform aligned teams, and things like that. So if you have a platform team, for example, then you are like, you should think of yourself as a product within the organization.
To the point.
Yes,
Yeah. To the point.
and you're providing a product to the developers. So even within the organization, you have that internal customer, and you're thinking of your developer experience.
Yes.
Because if your
Yes.
developers are not getting the experience they need to do their work, they are going to walk.
That's right.
Okay,
That's
if
right.
they're not getting, and I say this again because of what we said earlier, there's shortage in this environment. There's
Yeah.
shortage in terms of IT talent. So we need to treasure the developers that we have in house and make sure they have the best experience, and they have the
Experience.
right environment in which they can work and all of that. So that is so, so, so important. And
And,
yeah.
after that, as with matter leadership and even middle management about having what they call hard skills,
Uh-huh.
the technical stuff and the soft skills. And how do you engage, and involve your staff, developers as well for sure, because if they don't have that really that experience, they will again. You said it quite correctly. They will walk. They will lose interest, and like, why am I here, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, and it's important to talk about it because developers are creative people. And one of the reasons I brought this up is because we talk about innovation, right? And innovation is directly linked to creativity.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, like I said, I've been doing a lot of DevOps lately. And one of the figures I saw out there was that a lot of developers are spending more than 50% of their time doing non-development work, doing non-creative work.
Wow.
Okay. And this is frustrating for a typical developer because
Of
a
course.
developer wants to develop, they want to be creative, they want to be in that innovative space.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
this is where that developer experience is
Mm-hmm.
coming from. That is where that is coming from. So as a developer, I don't want to spend 50% of my time looking for files everywhere, you know, jumping from one screen to the other, working in an environment that is very cluttered, or, things are not well organized, the platforms are not ready. When I need to test something, I can't test it. That is where this is coming from. So that developer
Okay.
experience, and that is where the team topologies become very, very important. If the developers don't get the experience that they need, and have the environment in which to be creative and innovative, they will work. So this is when I saw this, as part of, like I said, what I was doing with them, I was, that is quite important because they are creative people.
It is, and each user,
Hmm.
developer included, has different requirements that will give them a different user experience, right? What a developer might need to do their job will be different to what a tester might need to do their job. Will be different from a project manager, from a programmer, whatever. So it's going back to listening and asking the right questions to each user, and definitely if a developer doesn't have access to, you said it right, to what they need to do to be effective, then I mean, they will suffer burnout so fast,
That's it.
so fast, so fast.
Burnout, and that can be a problem. It can be a huge problem. And I think that these are some of the issues that initiatives like DevOps, new ways of working, is trying to pay attention to. This is what the
Yeah,
flow framework is trying to pay attention to. This is
the
why
flow
it is
framework. Yeah,
important to have our value stream visible to us, so that we can see the different types of workflow that we have. We can see
yeah,
where our impediments are, where the bottlenecks are, so that we can attend to them. And more importantly, we need to free up. I mean, we're talking about adapting to a VUCA world. And in order for us to adapt to this VUCA world today, Derek, I'm sure you'll agree with me, everything is driven by software today. Everything
yeah,
is driven by
yeah,
software.
yeah.
So if practically everything is driven by software, then we need our developers. We
We
need
do,
them to be in
absolutely.
that creative space, to
We do.
churn out these innovative capabilities that they often churn
One
out. So
hundred
that is
percent,
so, so important. Yeah.
100%, 100%.
Yes, it is. It is. Well, I think we've covered most of the areas we plan to cover. Anything else you want to add to that before we?
But maybe from a business executive perspective,
Yeah.
it is just be a good listener. You have all the experience that you have, and you have your masters, and you have all this business, whatever. But you know, have conversations with your employees. Again, tying back to that user experience and to your executive. Listen, what it is are they looking for from you as their leader, right? Pushing technology aside, at the heart of everything is the people,
Yeah.
right? The people. Without the people, you can have the best strategy, whatever, but without the people to help you plan it, help you execute it, to help you sustain it, doesn't make sense right now. Value your people, listen to your people. I mean, you might hear some noise while your people are speaking, so you have to sift out the noise and really, document what they say, validate what they say, and work with them. So that would be probably one of my biggest takeaways here is, listen, be a good listener. Yeah,
I totally agree with you. It's about the people, it's about the voice of the system. And you know what? When we're talking about the voice of the system, it doesn't even matter if you propose an idea and eventually your idea was not selected. But the fact is, they gave you that platform for you to air your voice. So it's about,
yeah,
every voice in the system having the opportunity to be heard, because you just don't know where your next innovation is coming from. And we are,
that's
after
right.
all, talking about adapting to a VUCA world. And since we can't do it alone, we need to rely on the collective knowledge and experience we have in house. Absolutely. Thank you
Absolutely.
very much. And please, Connect with Derek on LinkedIn. You will find him on
Yes.
LinkedIn. And this is where we're going to draw the curtain today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Yemi, for joining us. Thank you, Ronke. Thank you. There's another LinkedIn user there. Thank you so much for joining us. And happy Mother's Day, Ronke. Happy Mother's Day to anyone watching. It is Mother's Day here and in
Yes, happy
Nigeria as
Mother's Day.
well. So yes, yes. So
Wow.
thank you so much, Derek, for investing time here with us today. We thoroughly appreciate it. So have a good evening, everyone.
Wonderful
Thank
to
you.
be here. Yes, good afternoon. Thanks again, Mary. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Bye bye.